Hello, this is Brian. Today is a warm Sunday, April 11th, 2021. I'm in the Angeles National Forest near the Chilao Visitor Center in Chilao Canyon, and I'm here to present a spotlight on trees and shrubs. Today's episode focuses on the pale Silktassel, and that's this shrub here, Garrya flavescens, in the Garrya family, or the Silktassel family, Garryaceae, formerly listed in the dogwood family, the Garryaceae, but eventually DNA analysis, I guess, was redone on this genus, Garrya, and it was given its own family. So Garrya flavescens, the pale Silktassel. Here we are in the San Gabriel Mountains, Angeles National Forest, and this is a fairly common fixture here in the San Gabriel Mountains. You're generally going to find it in chaparral, but sometimes also in oak woodland and sometimes in conifer forest. We are kind of in an opening in the latter. We are in a mixed conifer forest in the lower yellow pine belt, primarily consisting of Pseudotsuga macrocarpa, bighorn Douglas fir, Jeffrey pine, Pinus jeffreyi, Pinus coulteri, the coulter pine, incense cedar, Calosadrus decurrens, mixed shrubs such as Artemisia tridentata, Arctostaphylos periana, and of course monocots like Hespero yucca whippley, and oaks such as Quercus chrysolipus, canyon live oak, and interior live oak, Quercus wazazeni. So the pale leaf silktassel, or pale silktassel, is an evergreen, medium to very large shrub. In this case, quite a decently large specimen, but I imagine they might even be able to get larger than this. And upon first inspection, they appear to be some kind of a Manzanita. Upon first inspection, of course. The leaves are kind of rounded like Manzanitas. Of course, a lot of leaves on this plant have been eaten up. Try to find one that hasn't been eaten up so much. Here we go. Here's an intact leaf. You see, it's kind of very similar to a Manzanita. In fact, with that in mind, let's go to a Manzanita so you can see how similar they are. So here's a Manzanita right here. So they're kind of similar in shape to the Manzanitas. However, what's the difference? There's one huge way to tell the difference when you're looking at a Manzanita versus a Silktassel. It's the arrangement of the leaves. The arrangement of the leaves of a Silktassel are opposite. The leaves are opposite one another on the twig. So you can see here, you can see these two leaves are opposite each other on the twig. So there's a big bare space, big internodal bare space in between the buds. And you can see the twigs are opposite each other. That is the way you could tell a Manzanita from a Silktassel. Manzanitas, I'm going to go back to that Manzanita again. Manzanitas are alternately arranged. Let's go back to the Manzanita again, so I can show you that the leaves are alternately arranged. Okay, so here's a Manzanita. You can see here, the leaves are alternately arranged on the stem. You can see there's a leaf here, then a little bit further up, another leaf, then another leaf. The Manzanitas are alternately arranged. So if there's no flower there's no flower or fruit on the plants, that's how you're going to be able to tell the difference. However, when the plants are in bloom, then it's a whole different story. You don't even need to look at the leaf arrangement. Because silk tassels have these drooping catkins, which are tassel-like. Kind of like this. They kind of droop off of the stem, and they kind of form these little tassels, which when they're blooming can actually be quite attractive. Let's see if I can find a really good hanging. See? Garrya's, the silk tassels, have these catkins that hang down like little tassels and can be quite dramatic looking, especially when the plants are backlit by the sun. So there are at least 3 species of silk tassel here in Southern California, and at least a few more in the state. I think there are at least 5 species in the state of California at least. Here in Southern California, we got this one, Garrya flavescens. Then we also got Garryaceae, the canyon silk tassel, which is usually a lower elevation plant. And then we got Garrya flavescens, which has a darker green leaf, and I have not seen here in the San Gabriels yet. So, what kind of silk tassel are you looking at? Well, how I can tell this is a Garrya flavescens as opposed to a Garryaceae, which is probably the most similarly colored and most similar shrub to Garrya flavescens, is the underside of the leaves. The underside of the leaves have a very light, very fine pubescence. Very light, very fine, gentle hairs. On the top, kind of has a waxy grayish green. And on the underside, again, a little fuzzy, tiny bit fuzzy, and a lighter kind of yellowish green color. Now, the Garryaceae, the canyon silk tassel, you might have to take a little bit of time to look at the leaf underside to be able to tell, but generally it's lower elevation. Right now we're about 5,250 feet above sea level, roughly. I don't know how high Veitchii goes, but one way is you can look under, and Veitchii sometimes tends to be a little more revolute, maybe a little bit more curled under, and the leaves are much hairier underneath. It has much more of a whitish hairiness underneath. So the pubescence underneath is a lot more noticeable on Garryaceae. So that's how you can kind of tell canyon silk tassel Garryaceae from this one, Garrya flavescens. So the bark on Garrya flavescens is kind of a medium level gray. Let's go see if I could find a good spot to get the bark in focus here. Then it darkens down the stem. See the upper branches, they have a very, very, very mild furrowing, very mild. And then the stems get a little darker gray as you go down towards the trunks. This plant is a fire resprouter. This one will resprout from its root burrow when fire comes to burn the top tissues. Unless the fire was extreme and burnt the burrow itself. But generally, these things will resprout from fire. It's an adaptation living here in the chaparral. Another reason why these plants are kind of confused with manzanitas, besides the shape of the leaves, but the orientation of the leaves are kind of vertical as well. To certain times of the year when it's wetter, they seem to maximize photosynthesis, and during the times of drought, they tend to have less of an angle of the sun, retarding moisture loss. So kind of like manzanitas, they sometimes have a vertically arranged leaf, which again can rise to confusion between Garrya and Arctostaphylos, which is the manzanita. So what does the fruit look like on a Garrya? Well, this is not the fruiting season, far from it. It's more towards fall. But they also come on these clusters too, and they're kind of these roundish berry-like fruits that eventually will dry up, and then you'll have the seed inside of it. So I want to say it's botanically a drupe, but I'm not 100% sure if that's 100% accurate. So where does the name flavescens come from? I believe flava is from Latin flava, F-L-A-V-A, which means like golden or blonde. So there's a little bit of yellowishness in the hues of the plant. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes you'll get some yellowish hues here and there. A little bit of yellowish hues. But the overall appearance of it is more of a bluish gray-green. So you can see here, if we put the shrub in focus, it's more of a bluish gray-green instead. So Garrya flavescens. I am focusing my knowledge of its presence here in Southern California. If you read the description, I will give you the more of the range of where this plant grows. But here in Southern California, it can be quite common. You'll find it here in the San Gabriel Mountains. You find it in the San Bernardino Mountains. I've seen it in the Santa Ana Mountains. I believe I've seen it in San Diego County. And I've seen it as high as 6,500 feet. They might grow even a little higher than that. So they might grow up to maybe about 7,000 feet. And then I've seen them, I think, below 3,000 feet as well. So you'll see them quite a bit in the Santa Ana Mountains that border Orange and Riverside counties. Here I am in LA County right now. And this can be quite a common fixture here in the San Gabriel Mountains. Again, it's predominantly you're gonna be more likely to find it in mixed stands of chaparral, but then you'll also find it again in woodland and forest too as an understory shrub. So the beautiful Garrya flavescens. I know I pointed this out on previous videos while I'm hiking. I thought I wanted to get a spotlight on trees in today because I didn't get one in the last week or so. So I really wanted to get one in. And as I was hiking this canyon bottom here by Chilao, came across this nice, magnificent shrub here. So it was time to get in a video on this plant. So here it is. Pale Silktassel, Garrya flavescens, Garryaceae. This was Spotlight on Shrubs and Trees with Brian. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you found it helpful in identifying the pale leaf silk tassel and other native flora here in Southern California. Thanks for watching.